Now, when it comes up, I'm actually flicking through some photos. Here we go. Now, I think I might have it here, Heather. This is, there you go, for those playing at home. I'll get that one back later on. This is the day I got baptised in 1996 or 95, can't really remember. It's in May. It's almost 30-something years to the day, and let me tell you, the water was flipping cold, and I was really unhappy. If you could not tell that I'm unhappy, I'm the one in the blue towel that is frowning and is PO'd because he's standing for a photo saying, smile. Cold. Ron did say to me, you can either, you want to live for Jesus or you can go down and meet him. No one got that. Just stay under. That's all right. Thank you. Next one. I love church. I've been part of this church family for 30-something years. Back in the day, we were at before that was, we were in the Corrimal School. We then ended up in the Corrimal Community Centre. And I don't know if you guys recognise Heather playing the piano, but there's some people there that you don't know, strangers, some would say. And that was our music team. Next one. And we did, as part of the community church, we were part of the community and we did some crazy events, spring into Corrimal. Thousands of people would rock up there. Now, I don't know what's going on with this year, but this is our float. This is the City Life float. And so I am not the kid in the rollerblades. I'm actually one of the clowns. And I don't know why we did this, but we had an amazing kids leader. Her name was Jeanette, and she used to do these crazy things with our kids department, and we were better for it, and she had big ideas. I just don't think that way. So apologies, parents. I just go straight to the word. Not fun, just the word of Jesus, So we do these community things. We hosted a couple of years there, and it was a big burden on our church, but we bounded together and we did these things. And, Spring to Corrimal was one of them. The next one was, you know what? We had this is our youth at the time. Now, we'd meet up in another room back in Corrimal and Railway Street. It's called The Room. The reason I'm going through this so quickly is we just had young guys and young people. They would rock up, would go down to Belambia, we'd pick them up in a bus there. These days, you can't really do that. There's too many child protection things there that, just come onto our bus, it'll be fine. Would you like a lolly? You guys laugh, but that was literally our ploy to get people into the church. I don't know, do I say that on the microphone? And we sit there and go, wow, it was a different time, but we just wanted to be part of our little community there. We wanted to show that we were fun, not just boring Christians, not like the Catholic Church. I've got to eat the ice cream. I'm just playing, that. And so we would just meet in this room, and it's funny because we do church, and we treat it on a Sunday, and then we're like, oh yeah, you should do life groups too, and that's on a Wednesdays or a Tuesday, whichever day you meet. We would meet as a church on a Sunday. We would then back it up there with life groups there throughout the week. Then we'd do house builders again on the Wednesday. Then we would meet as a youth group or a kids group on the Thursday night. Then we'd do the youth on the Friday night, and then we'd come back and do it the Sunday morning, and then we'd do it the Sunday night. Just wondering if you're interested in doing church with me. It takes about 70 hours a week, and we love it. And it's funny because I say that, and people are like, are you sure you did all that? I'm not lying. I'm going to read you some scriptures in a minute because I want you to understand that when we talk church and community, I want to push you to a point. I use the word push intentionally because I see a gospel that is uncomfortable. I see a gospel in the Acts which is really hard and difficult and radical to a degree which it makes me uncomfortable to live in. This was an uncomfortable time. My mum had to drive me every day to a church program. You want to go to church again? Well, Mum, they're doing the Wednesday night thing, and just so happens that I'm doing the offering. They were terrible offering messages anyway. Or just doing the youth thing. Or we'd go to one another's houses. Adrian used to come around my house all the time. I lived with Mitch. Another guy over here, I'm looking over there. Phil, we didn't live together. That's all right. And so we just lived in each other's houses all the time. Anyway, next photo. Oh, look, okay. Now, if Brian was here, is Brian here? He's not here. Brian's the blue wiggle. He's not the blue wiggle. I don't know. Brian's on the left-hand side. The maroon wiggle is Rono over here. Clinton's in the blue. I think the yellow one is Stuart. Where's Stuart? He might be over there. I'm again, that looks like Peter in the back with a vest because vests were cool back then. I'm the guy with the white shirt. I don't know why everyone's doing this and I'm doing this. Like I said, ain't bright, but here we are. And then there's Josh on the outside. That was the Corrimal community carols. And we would host these carols and there would be, fireworks, and we spent way too much money and we did way too many man hours, but we just did these things because we wanted to be part of community to share the love of God. And no one got saved. I just want to say that. No one got saved. But we still wanted to be a present. Sorry, one person got saved. Doesn't really matter. It was a lot of effort for one person. We don't put a price on that soul. He's gone over to Ethiopia and saved everyone. That's not true. My point is, we just wanted to love on our community. And we would do these sorts of things to be involved in our community. And with those posture, that posture is what I want to come to today. Because I want to engage with you and I want to talk and I want to process with us that this is not the epicenter of your faith. I'm going to get there in a minute. Next one. Okay, we shared meals. That was kind of an Acts thing. We were all poor uni students. Of course we shared meals. You guys get it. I love that you guys did a Wednesday night thing just recently, just last night, 2 nights ago, and you guys were together in this one place. We used to do the same thing back when I was cool. Actually, I was never actually that cool. I didn't have a lot of friends. That is very true. That is way true. Next one, sharing meals. So I'm the kid on the left, the one with the really high shorts. That's me brother on the right, and that's me mum. She's sitting in a hospital bed in Katoomba at this point in time. Now, my mum, this is going to sound random, just don't jump to. She got pushed off a cliff. What? No, they went up onto a cliff edge there. A lady slipped and stumbled on the moss there, and to gain her balance, as we all do, pushed the next person next to you. And that was my mum. And when I talk church, I understand that I have 30 plus years of lived experience of the highs and lows of ministry in church. I have a lived experience of care, commitment, love, loyalty, uncles and aunties that spoke into me, that knew my name. This photo here is not supposed to be. This was the moment there that my mum had to stay in hospital for about 3 or 4 months, which meant that no one could look after my brother and I. We still had to go to school, we still had to go to soccer, we still had to come to church, that's what we do. And a family, and I should have been picked up by my family. My dad should have come up from Melbourne, or my uncles or aunties, they should have kind of done what they would do in a family. But my family is here. And a family took me and my brother in, even though they couldn't afford it. And they didn't have the car space. They already had 4 kids. 4 plus 2 adults makes 6, plus another 2 kids makes 8. Ron and Heather took me and my brother in. And it's funny because then, they were stressed out. They didn't have the capacity. They didn't have the money. But they loved on me and my brother. Not because we were family, but because we were church. And I get to this picture and I sit there and go, it wasn't the Sunday morning that made them do it. Can I push the point that the epicenter of our faith shouldn't be here? That sounds counterintuitive in one hand. But I look back at this particular point in time, and I know that I wasn't the only family and the only son that was taken into a family. The Whalens took a boy that was abused and saw a lot of trauma in his life, and for 8 to 10 years, they fostered this boy. He had nowhere to go. That's what church is supposed to be. It's not the Sunday morning. It's what we do with our lives. That funny thing with that little boy is they got to a point there where Liz and, I was looking for Tom and Josh. Where are Tom and Josh? They're not here. And Jill and Brian and they're like, there's the line and Simo, he crossed it and he had nowhere to go. But I had a place in my heart and a place in my house where I then took him on. Now, people disagree with me and they were right to disagree with me. I was 20 at the time and what the heck do I know about kids? Still nothing, we're learning on it. But I took him there for 6 months and because that was the same love that was shown me when I had nowhere to go. We look after one another. We care for our family. We care for our friends. We care for our church community. And thanks, Jace. And so when we get to Acts, today is about the Acts church. We've got to understand the significance of that moment. And I'm going to read it out of Acts 2, it's famous scripture, but I want you to pass those pictures through a particular lens. And I want to test it. I want to see if you agree with my interpretation of the Acts church, because I want to challenge us as the leader of the church, as the elder of the church, to posture us in a direction that moves to a family. This has been my family, but the same hand, I can hold my 30 plus years of recognition and lived experience and say, this is what we have done, and isn't this a good testimony of church? And I'm right. But I also know that not everyone's experience in the church, this church, a church, maybe today, maybe it's not your same experience. And I want to sit there and I want to posture ourselves. I want to put this in front of us. I want to challenge us as a church to sit there and give you the question, the individual. Church is not a building. We use the word wrong all the time. I'm going to church. You're going to people? We are the church. Acts 2, 42. And so I want to give that lens as well, understanding there that we want to become more and more like this. They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching, to the fellowship, to the breaking of bread, and to the prayer. You saw that photo. Again, I've probably cherry-picked some of the photos, I'll be honest. Everyone was filled with awe, and many wonders and miraculous signs were done by the apostles. All the believers were together and had everything in common. They were uni students and they were broke. Selling their possessions and goods they gave to anyone he had need. I've talked about families that gave to me. They had nothing to give and yet they still gave me a home. Every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favour of the people. And the Lord added to their numbers daily those who were being saved. Now, there's these particular scriptures that I've just read out. And I want to avoid the idea of picking these 4 or 5 verses and saying, that's it. That's what we should do. No ifs, buts, or maybes. We need to look at where Judaism came from and where Jesus wanted to leave it. So there's 39 books in the Old Testament. They were given to Judaism and the way that the Jewish people and God's people became to be. Then there was 4 books only, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, given to Jesus. And 1 chapter in Acts. The rest of the New Testament, the other 23 chapters, is given to the establishment of the church, and we're it. We're a product of that. And so we need to pass ourselves through this lens, and we've got to sit there and we've got to measure ourselves. Did we do this right? Are we working towards the bride of Christ? Because the church of the New Testament is way different to Judaism. It's funny because we've got to treat this particular chapters, Acts 2, Acts 1, with a level of respect. You know, if Jesus' birth and death and then resurrection was kind of like the climax of the gospel, this is kind of like the encore, Acts 2, because we get the Holy Spirit that comes through Pentecost, comes to earth, God's Spirit living through us. And if we look through a lens of an Old Testament, we know that God's presence would come down in a moment to a place. He would come down to the Mount Sinai. He would meet with Moses. He'd come down to the tabernacle. He would meet with Moses and Joshua. He'd come down to the temple, Solomon's temple. He would come down to a place. He'd come down to a place. He'd come down to a place. We get to the Acts 2. They're in the upper room, and Adrian's going to talk about Acts 2 next week, and so I don't want to take too much. But it doesn't come to a place. The Spirit doesn't come to a place. It comes to 70 people in the upper room. It comes to a people. Comes to the church, not a place. And so we need to recognize, hang on a second, I'm the church, I'm the church, I'm the church, I'm the church. This is not the epicenter of our faith. And what I mean by that is if this is the only expression of our faith throughout the week, I would put it to you and I would own this statement. It sounds arrogant, but I reckon if God came back, Jesus came back today, and he'd be like, all right, bringing in the churches. Woo, bringing in all the individuals. He might get, and I'm not putting this on City Life, I'm just suggesting that if you looked at the church and thought, is this the expression of your faith? Yes. Just the Sunday morning and the Wednesday night, yeah, it's cell group, yes. And you tithe. Oh, we sometimes tithe. If that was the expression of our faith, I don't think he would be stoked. I reckon he would be sitting there going, hang on, stop, break that down for me, because I'd sit there and he'd go, that was Old Testament faith. That's where they went to the place. They went to the temple and they worshipped, and then they'd do the ritualistic things, and then they'd go to the epicenter of the town, which was the temple or the tabernacle, and they would do church there, and then they'd go out, they'd be religious, and then they'd go back to the center of the society. They'd do church and religion there, and he's like, you guys do that today? Oh, it's not exactly like that. What do you mean not exactly? Well, we love one another. Oh yeah, show me about that. Well, for the 2 hours on the Sunday, we love one another. Like love. We've even got food. 30% of the church tithed last week. You know, like, I just got to sit there. I get that I've got a microphone, and so you got to listen to me. But I want to be serious in the sense there that we've got to be really careful with the way that we treat our faith. We've got to be really careful with the way that we treat the bride of Christ, because this isn't it. The bride of Christ is represented in your day-to-day lives, and it's when it comes back, we've got a beauty. You know, Jesus is sit there and go, oh, I died for this, and I just want them to be beautiful. He says, oh, look, you know, there are going to be people there that have the aroma of Christ. You know what? It was the church of Antioch in Acts 11, and they talk about, they call them little Christs. Oh, you're a little Christ. It was like a name there that was given to these guys that were followers, believers of the way, because they represented Jesus so well that they termed them, it was probably more of I don't know if it's a rude word, but they called them Christians. Oh, you're a Christian. Well, it wasn't because what they did on the Saturday, their Sabbath. Judaism was already throughout the Roman Empire. Oh, you guys, it's just Judaism. You guys are just Jews. No. It wasn't based on where they went on the Saturday, where they went on the Sabbath. It was how they lived their lives. You guys are Christians. You guys are just like little Christs. You guys are ridiculously generous. How did they know that? They saw it in the way that these people were sacrificing their lives. They took in the poor. Because previously with Judaism, if you were a lady, you would be left on one side of of the temple court. If you were a fellow, you're in another side. If you were unclean, you weren't permitted in. If you were of low standing, you were only allowed in the grounds. And so there's this restricted idea that only if you were from a genealogical lineage, a Hebrew lineage, would you actually be able to permit yourself into the temple. Jesus comes down and he breaks this understanding of only the elite or only those from genealogical heritage and a way of being clean. He breaks that down and says, no. Poor people, average people, Cole. I want to put myself next to average. He says, you are all allowed in. Cleanliness is not what it looks like on the outside. It's how we deal with it in the inside. And so we break down this idea of religion. And the church, if I say globally, needs to be better at that. We need to be better at that. You're not saved yet. You can't come to church. It doesn't even make any sense. Acts 2. They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and fellowship and to the breaking of bread and prayer. Everyone was filled with awe, and many wonders and miraculous signs were done by the apostles. All the believers were together and had everything in common. I read these verses and I struggle with them. I struggle with the idea of the Acts church. I struggle with the Philippians church. I struggle with the Colossians church. I struggle with those particular churches because I look through an individualistic mindset and a worldview, and we live in Australia, so we're pretty individualistic. Sorry to say that, just let you guys know. If I've got capacity, I will do that. If I don't have capacity, I can't do that. It doesn't say anything about they met on Sunday for 2 hours and did Wednesday nights, and sometimes they ate food. Acts 2. It doesn't talk about capacity. It talks about our priority is found through a collective, not an individualistic worldview, a collective worldview. What was best for the church? What was best for that family? What was best for those two boys? We want to look after them. What was best for the person next to you? We want to look after that person. What is best for our uncles and aunties in the room? We want to look after them. Because it no longer was, if I've got some spare money, if I've got some spare cash, that was the same thing. If I've got some spare time, it's tough. This is radical. It was so uncomfortable there that's why they were radical in the way that they saw things. But we looked through a different lens, no longer an individually, but a collective. What collective means is it means community. What is best for the community of God? I know some of my mentalities has been wrong in the past, and I wanted to treat church as a program, and I would forget about people. Or I'd be like, I'm going to go to church because it's good for the soul. It's good for the soul health. It's like gym church. Is that a thing? Church gym? It's so wrong. It's the individual perspective that I would adopt. I know another thing there that I'm doing the Christian thing. I'm a Christian, so I should do the Christian lecture. Every Sunday I should do the Christian lecture. You know, we're part of the club, so we should attend the lectures every week on the Sunday, and they do tutorials on the Wednesday. You should do the tutorials too. And so I would come to the lecture on the Sunday, and I'd go to the tutorials on the Wednesday because I'm a good Christian, because I'm part of the Christian club. I'd signed up for the subject. All the uni students are like, I hope you got an early lesson. Other times I'd rock up there and I'd be thinking, oh man, I've paid some tithes this week. I've done a little bit. I'm coming to the movie theatre. I want to be entertained by Rondog and Adrian. Just entertain me, you know what I mean? Just feed me a little bit. I've done me due diligence. I even served a couple of times in kids. I'm front row, like, oh, pamper me little team. And like I say that they're trying to be funny and all the rest of it, but you get the mentality is so wrong of me because I treated church as a program that I attended instead of a people that I loved. A people that I should care for. A people there that I wanted to lift up. Kids that I wanted to encourage and see them become the girl or the guy in God. Grandparents, I'm looking for Savita. Savita's been part of my life for 30-something years, and I sit there and go, I've actually got a little bit of an agenda. Can I be rude about that? I want my church to raise my little boy in a family that looks after him and elevates him, because church is not an individual practice, it is a community. We are created for community. And it's tough. Please don't sit there and think, oh, he's coming from a place that's out of judgment. That is not where I'm coming from, because I'm the first person to put my hand up and say, gee, I've loved the program before I've loved people. Gee, I've gone back to Old Testament worship where I rocked up and thought, this is the place where I felt God. I've treated this as the epicenter of my faith. I've done those things, and I've come to appreciate, and when we talk about Acts and when we talk about the establishment of the church, we're not trying to push through a lens of Old Testament into New Testament. It was a radical change, and it is tough. It is not an easy adoption. Can I put that way? It's not an easy thing to do. Devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching. Like, I just sit there and go, devoted. That word devoted, like, I don't know if I've ever been devoted to something. 30 years is probably a good devotion. Can I have a time check? Beautiful, sweet. I was like, oh, good. Heather warned me this morning. Don't go overtime. That's not true. Which words of wisdom. The one thing I want you to remember, Cole. Don't go overtime. Look, I've only read one Bible verse. Is it even biblical if you've done that? I don't know. Not bad. Acts 4, all the believers were one in heart and mind. No one claimed that any of his possessions was his own, but they shared everything they had. I have a lot. I have heaps. Way too much. Most people do. But I know that I have to posture myself out of my individualistic, selfish mentality. And I'm not saying rob myself from everything. There's a level of blessing and all the rest of it. I'm not trying to, let's not go to the nth degree. But I think there is a posture there that I would challenge me on and challenge other people on, is do you look through, and do I look through, what lens do I look through? Is it an individualistic lens? What's good for me is good for everyone else. What's good for my family, and we justify it this way. I've done my family thing, I've looked after them, and I believe that your family is your first ministry. So I'm not trying to convolute things, but I am saying there's a posture towards your church. There's a posture towards your family. There's a posture to the people around you that should be greater than yourself. There should be room for others. Just as I close, is you get through those 23 chapters of church establishment, 22, and you end up in Revelation. And the Revelation 2 and Revelation 3 is actually the judgment of the churches. There's 7 of them. And if we read through those judgments, we recognize churches that left their first love, left Jesus. We see churches there that took on the teachings of the Nicolaitans, which was, long story short, who had watered down the faith, who had allowed adultery and allowed practices in the church there that were far outside the kingdom of God. There's one church there that gets spewed out of Jesus' mouth because they weren't hot or cold. They were kind of empathetic and just whatever goes is whatever goes. I want to be, as I stand here and as we lead church and as we are part of city life, we're going to posture ourselves to looking after one another and caring for one another, because there's a biblical mandate that says you will be known that you are my disciples because of your love for one another. A new command I give to you: love one another. We want people to be part of our church. We want people to be part of our community. We want people to enjoy the fullness of relationship with Jesus. Because that's where they're going to find purpose. That's where they're going to find reason. That's where they're going to enjoy the life that God's called them to do. It's part of our church.